If I got hung up every time someone said something racially insensitive or derogatory or something that offended me, you'd never move forward.
To be white in America.
I don't think being black has changed my view of the American dream.
Your Fellow Americans is a project asking questions about race, immigration, and the American dream. We're just trying to figure out what it means to be American for as many different folks as possible.
Lord, we want to thank you for the meal provided for us tonight.
Jeanna and Kyle Repass live in Overland Park, Kansas. In May of 2014, we joined Jeanna, her mother Johnice, and her daughter Ariel as they discussed race, immigration, and the American dream around the dinner table.
They're on a schedule. And
well, I'm Jeanna Repass, and I am the mom of 3 children and the wife of 1. I'm 43 years old, and I'm a full-time working mom.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think it's important to talk about it. I mean, everybody grab we'll grab what's in front of you, and we'll just go from there.
When we recorded this interview, Jeanna was working at a large church in a Kansas City suburb.
You know, to be real honest, you told me a while ago that the church was my mission field, and you know that God didn't send me there to work for the poor folks. He sent me there to minister to the, thank you, Ariel, serve a population of people who don't necessarily want to address their own issues.
Well, I have been employed as the local missions program director in the missions department, and my mission field has been the greater Kansas City community. The church likes to do outreach, and so part of what I said when I came on staff was that we can't continue to send volunteers into the urban core and take our good intentions and our crosses and our love for Jesus and trample all over people and insult them and say things out of ignorance and arrogance that we really don't even know are being very hurtful, and they're damaging to others.
I resent having to speak for all black people all the time, and at the same time when I'm speaking to the black community, having to defend the unintentional consequences of the ignorance and the arrogance that my role brings with it.
One of the things we do is we partner with the public school system. And what I observed when we walked in the door was that I had this group of suburban rich volunteers walking through with a pen and a notepad tisking, with the principal of the school in tow, the head of facilities in tow, and the janitor of that building, all African American, walking around behind them while they're pointing out how poorly they've been able to maintain their building. What that doesn't tell you is how there isn't funding there, how they're overworked and understaffed, how these buildings were in disarray before they even got there. But what it says is, look at these rich white people who would have done this so much better. And what's wrong with you black people that you didn't do it right? Now that's what the message is to the African Americans on the other end of it. What's intended from the Christian white volunteers is, hey, we want to help you, but that's not what they're saying.
I remember 8th grade, very much that same situation arose with choir trying to sing Pick a Bale of Cotton, and then social justice grandma came through the door and said, no, actually, we're not going to do that. You'll be sitting with me during that portion of the concert.
I think for Ariel it was just, oh, but we love this song.
We've done it every year. It's a rhapsody.
That's just fine. It's not appropriate. And if you're not going to take it out of your program, then we have to remove her.
And the end result was they were not going to take it out of the program. No. And the way it was said to us was, oh, we're so sorry, we're so embarrassed, it was never our intention, but at this late date. Well, and see, I think what I run into is it's about compartmentalizing it to me.
Yeah.
Because me being offended is not enough.
Yeah.
People have accused me of playing the race card, and it's really interesting because it's kind of that double entendre. As soon as you accuse someone of playing the race card, you put them in this position where your own racism is coming out. Because it's meant to depower African Americans from being able to say, hey, what you're doing is hurtful. Well, if I'm hurting you, it's because you're playing the race card. I didn't mean to hurt you, therefore your hurt can't be legitimate. So it delegitimizes the pain that you feel from people's unintended racism.
Because then it's easy to make it about you. And I think that's what happened with Ariel in that song. It's like, oh, we're so sorry we offended you, Ariel, but we're not going to not sing it. Yeah. You can sit down. And we're not racist, so it's okay.
And that's how the story rolls.
And that makes me want to cry. That makes me feel violated. Yeah. And I can't be the voice. See, I can't be the voice for every black person. And then it makes me feel selfish because I can only protect my kids. It's hard to convince somebody what racism feels like, unless you've experienced it. I think women can kind of understand it from an issue of sexism and, when someone has said something derogatory or called you sweetheart in the workplace and things like that. But outside of that, it's really hard to get people to understand what it feels like to walk into a place where you're completely defined by your skin.
It's like people who used to smoke. And, there was a friend of mine who said his parents used to smoke so much there was this cloud of smoke in the house. And he and his brother used to pretend they were airplanes and fly up and down around the cloud. And then his parents quit smoking, but there wouldn't be smoke in the house. But if you sit on the couch, you could just smell it when you'd walk in because it got into the fabric. And that's where I see racism now. It's, when my mom's age was open, people could say the N-word. You could call a grown adult black male boy. So it was very overt. It was who we were. It was the smoke filling the room. Now, and certainly for my generation, and I see it for my children, it's in the fabric. And that's where I really see that it's not that different. Because people are very open to, I'm colorblind, I don't see things that way, I'm not racist. And then we'll turn around and trample across a whole community of people because they feel like it's their right to serve. And if you're serving Jesus and you're feeding poor people, it doesn't matter how you treat them. I think in that respect, as soon as I really start pushing those buttons, the same ugliness reared its head. I'm not my mom. And the difference is my mom could protest in the street. And, I know it was hard for her. I can't imagine what it had to be like in that generation. But there was a voice there. There was even, there was a Black Panther movement. There was Black Power. And I'll be honest with you, last week I came home and I put on Trick Daddy. And I put it on as loud as I could. And I felt like just screaming, I am a Black woman. I want you to see me, not define me by it. Just see me and own it. And I was so frustrated and I was so discouraged because at some point your flesh takes over and discouragement comes in. And I don't have a voice to protest. I just get to say kindly, hey folks, when you say something like that, this might be how it's received.
Jeanna has been asked to speak for two communities that just don't get each other. Yet when she does speak, neither community wants to listen. We'd like to listen to what you have to say. Comment below or visit kcpt.org/yourfellowamericans to tell us. Is the smoke of racism still in the air? Is it stuck in the fabric of society? Or is it entirely faded away, no trace left at all?